Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Apartment Department, the podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. I am your co-host, Anne Baum. I am the marketing director at Town Properties, a property management company in Cincinnati, Ohio. My co-host, Chris, is not here today because very exciting news. He and his wife just welcomed a new baby to their family. So he's not here, but that's okay because we have a guest that is big enough for both Chris and I, and her name is Janet Rosseth, and she is the founder of both Cadence Marketing Solutions and Cadence Run Club. And I'm so happy to have Janet here. I met her, in May at AIM 2024, and it was after a session, and it was the most special thing because I went and I met Janet after the session, and she was with a group of people, a group of other marketers, and immediately, I felt so welcomed into this group, and she told me about a group that she runs, the Cadence Run Club, which is basically a networking group, a knowledge-sharing group, a support group for multifamily marketers. I knew immediately that I had to join this group. We meet twice a week. Mondays, they're industry experts talking about all sorts of things, and then on Friday is water cooler, and we just talk about anything you could actually imagine. It's been the best thing that I could think of from a career standpoint. And so we knew that we had to have Janet on the podcast. So Janet, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel so honored and flattered, and your introduction just gave me all the feels.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're welcome. Like I said, immediately I was like, oh my gosh, I found people that I can connect with. And it was so great. Will you tell us a little bit about your background in multifamily?
So my background, I have spent 25 or more, I stopped counting years in multifamily marketing. Started in the traditional way as a leasing agent. Yeah. Got hired at a dinner party with some college friends of mine, and somebody's older sister was a property manager and said, you should be a leasing agent. And I had no idea what that meant, but I geared myself up for a very fancy interview and showed up at the property, and we went for a walk while we talked, and she basically asked when I could start. So the traditional way of getting hired in this industry, right?
Right.
And from there, I think I just had a lot of opportunities. I have this really strange college degree. I have a Bachelor of Elective Studies because I changed my major enough times that I essentially had minors in several areas. So I have a minor in communications, a minor in speech communications, a minor in business marketing, and a minor in education. And when I started working within the industry and making eye contact, I call it, with different opportunities and jobs, it was right at a time where the owner of the property I worked at was doubling in size every couple of months, absorbing new properties. And I just really had a cool opportunity to roll right into a training role, training other leasing agents, and then a marketing role when it was time for someone to oversee the marketing. And I grew that department from me, myself, and I to 18 people deep.
Wow. Everyone's jealous right now.
We went from 2,000 units to 18,000 units in the time that I was there, and they are far, far beyond that now. But from there, I actually shifted gears and went to a much smaller local company with 5,000 units. And I was one of three in the marketing department, overseeing leasing and marketing, sales enablement, all the functions. And that was where I think it really started becoming very clear to me that my networks were what helped me survive this job and this role. And I had the opportunity at my first job to go to what used to be the brainstorming sessions in multifamily and met a lot of really dialed in leaders in multifamily marketing. And I kept in contact with them. And then I'm of the age that social media came out while I was already well into my career. And I tapped into a lot of really smart people there. And we relied on each other to pick each other's brains on ideas or concepts or learn all these new tactics together because you know how it goes. It's still right now. Every day you turn around and there's a new something.
Yeah, absolutely.
A new metric, a new social tool, a new way of measuring your Google Analytics. It's just there's always something new. So that really proved out when I went to the second company, and I was a much smaller department, that I wasn't relying on just my own expertise. I was reaching out constantly asking, like, okay, this is a new tech stack. Like, I'm having to launch and onboard this. Like, who uses this? What can you tell me? How should I approach this piece? And my network just really proved to be such a support system. When I made the decision at the 20-year mark in my career to just launch out on my own and start consulting, it really felt the same, that I knew I needed to surround myself with a lot of people smarter than me. And that was the way that I kept educated. You know, when you're within a corporation and within those four walls and you're attending all the industry stuff, you are surrounded by education. But when you're out solo on your own, you got to seek that out, and nobody's paying for it. I had to really keep those contacts alive and really reach out. And I did that by seeking out vendors and taking demos and learning everything I could about products. And then once I started really gaining speed on clients, I found myself quite often coaching multifamily marketers that were maybe either running a small department and reported up to someone who doesn't do marketing, or they were solo. And I just kept finding people who should meet people who should meet people. Yep. And so I'd connect the dots. And that's where the whole idea really bloomed. This Cadence Marketing Solutions, everything is based on a running theme. I'm a recreational runner. I don't run marathons. I'm not the top finisher. I'm just someone who enjoys the fine art of running and the mental space that it gives me. And it aligned well with business and multifamily. And that's where the name came from. And that's where Cadence Run Club came from, we go further together.
I think, and you've done such a good job of building that group. I think it's 70 plus people right now. Am I thinking of that properly?
We are one away from 80. We're at 79, and I can't wait to get to 80.
Okay, and yeah, one right now.
Properly, it's a slow growing group because we aren't trying to be something for everybody. We're trying to be really specific to those who are seeking this kind of community where they can really feel like it's a safe space, get to know the people who are in there, feel like you can really come and show up and talk about the challenges you're having or share the wins. And, that's slow growth. If we had too many people join all at once, it would shift the balance altogether. So it's been fantastic that we just keep gaining a couple of members every month and just getting to know new people and continuing on with the legacy members that have been on with us since the beginning. And it's just been fantastic.
Yeah, no, I love the group. I think you're exactly right. Every time I've had an interaction with someone, it's been so rich. I don't know the right word, but valuable. I mean, it is not surface level conversations. I have felt comfortable every time going into those meetings talking about some really serious things. And I love how you talk about, your interest in bringing people together, how important a network is. That's actually how Chris and I met. We got connected to talk about a product. A vendor connected us so that he could give me a referral for a product. And we ended up talking about marketing in general. And he was really a lifeline for me. I was new in the multifamily industry and I was still kind of just feeling my way around. And so to have someone else to talk to and to kind of show me that I was on the right path was just, I can't describe that. So now, to have access to 79 other, well, I guess I'm one of the people, 78 other Chris, but more people are going to join from this. So maybe I'll be number, but anyway, to have 79 other Chris's around has just been so valuable.
And that's our members are one of two situations. Either they've been brought up in multifamily, essentially came in from a leasing agent or a property manager, and I'll call it again, they made eye contact with marketing and maybe proved that they had a little knowledge about it or a little interest in it, and they end up the marketing department, maybe a me, myself, and I department, but they report up to someone who doesn't do marketing. So it's really challenging because it's really a very isolated department within an organization, but it's so important. And then there's folks like you that come in, very savvy marketers, lots of experience, but they drop into multifamily thinking it translates perfectly. And it's weird. It doesn't translate perfectly. We're a little weird. So it's really, that's the beauty of the whole group, is that we have both types, people who really understand the nuances of multifamily, but also people who bring this outside perspective of how marketing is done in other industries. And we share that.
I would agree with you. It's such a nice marriage. What has been like your favorite memory or just part? I don't know. What's been like the most interesting thing that you've learned kind of as you've been managing Cadence Run Club and growing the group?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I'm going to go back to the original version before it was an online community. A couple years into running the consulting business, I had coached enough marketers and talked to enough clients that I really felt like there was an opportunity to bring marketers together, because most association education opportunities really kind of leave out marketers. You know, they've got the local association events have a track for leasing, a track for property managers, a track for maintenance, maybe a track for executive even, but marketers are supposed to find their way in between all of those. And sure, maybe there's some material, or you pay and go to AIM once a year, or you pay and go to Apartmentalize, but there's just not really anything super local for marketers. So I guess it was 2019, I hosted our very first in-person Cadence Connect session.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a real leap of faith for me, because I really came into it like, okay, I feel like all these people should meet together and we should talk about a common subject, or maybe talk about, you know, a few different subjects and how to get your arms around this role and how other people approach it. And I'm going to just take a shot in the dark and, you know, sign an agreement on a venue and pay for food and beverage and take a chance that people actually want to show up to this, right? Yeah. And if you're from Minnesota, you know that the state fair is a very big deal in the summer. And I did not realize that the date that I chose was the first day of the state fair.
Oh, no.
we had like 60 people RSVP for it, which was I thought that we'd maybe have 30.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, you know, I kept second guessing myself, thinking like, oh my God, nobody's going to show up. Like, this is dumb. Nobody's going to show up. And we're at 60 people registered, and the biggest thunderstorm rolls in right at the same time as the session. The state fair is opening day. I'm like, no one's going to show up. All these people are going to drop out. I'm going to just be like drinking a lot of booze by myself and eating a lot of food. And every single person who RSVP showed up.
No, that's not even
insane. I was like almost in tears at the doorway, because I just thought, okay, there is a need for this. The proof. There is people who want to come together and learn from each other and talk about these things. Then it shifted from feeling that imposter syndrome into feeling this incredible sense of responsibility to keep carrying it forward. Like, you have all spoken. This is something that could be valuable. I'm going to do it again. Mm-hmm. I tried to do it quarterly and keep bringing this together. Well, that first session was August of 2019. The second session was March of 2020, a week before COVID hit. Yep. And that was our second in-person session. And again, we had packed house. And so from there, I was like, well, I have all this responsibility to carry this forward. People like this, people need it. So we went online and just kept doing online sessions. I think I did a monthly. Mm-hmm. And then it sort of felt like, okay, this needs to grow into something that's a little bit more structured. And that's when we started bringing it online into the Cadence Run Club. So now we have both. We have Cadence Run Club online community. We have a Cadence Connect in-person event in the spring and the fall. So we have one coming up in November. Yep. And then we have the Cadence Consulting branch that serves clients. And some of those clients are our members, and some are members that end up becoming clients. So it's really, it's a very full circle experience for us, that we really get to be so tapped in with so many people and really try to just be the steward, really, of this community and of these relationships and these conversations. And that, to me, just feels like an immense privilege.
I agree with you. I mean, and I think for anyone who's listening, it can be scary sometimes to have a network, to keep in touch with people, to be vulnerable enough to kind of raise your hand and say, I need help, or I want to connect with other. And I think that the structure that you've put together makes that easy, because I think you're right. I didn't realize how important my professional network was until I would say within the past 2-3 years. And I'd been here, I've been working for a long time, and just was finally like, oh, there are people out there who want to help me and who are also interested in what I'm trying and what I have to say. And so I would agree with you. I think, one, you're doing a great job with bringing everyone together, and I think it is so important for anyone, but multifamily marketers especially, to have that safe base and to be able to learn from each other. So thank you for bringing that to us. I do want to switch gears a little bit, because one of the things that's really fascinating to me is that you, because of Cadence Marketing Solutions and because of Cadence Run Club, you have access to a lot of people, and you get to hear a lot about what marketers are concerned about, what management companies are concerned about, what issues even vendors. I know that there are some vendors in Cadence Run Club, and you said yourself you actively go and talk to vendors, and you're constantly learning to understand what technology, what solutions are available. What are you seeing right now? Like, what are marketers saying to you? What are they concerned about? What are they focused on? And then a second part to that, does what they're concerned about or worried about vary based on either the size of their team or like the size of their company, for example?
Oh gosh, so many ways to answer that question.
Huge open-ended question. No pressure.
I think you nailed it when you said the size of the department or the scale of the organization. That is the interesting thing about the marketing role in this industry, is that no two are alike. I mean, for some of our marketing team members, they cover everything in the company, from corporate brand and property branding to graphic design, analytics, prop tech, help desk support, onboarding new tech, leasing, training, and sales enablement, all as a small department. And, we had Mike Whaling on a session with us last fall in Cadence Run Club, and I have his quote in my head forever. He said, we have marketers that cover such a vast array of topics in multifamily, and then I have a client in restaurant who has one marketer just for breakfast, just for the breakfast menu. And that spoke to me like, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's the most challenging thing about marketing in this industry right now, is that every department is thought of differently. And for some owners, marketing is kind of an afterthought, or they maybe have an admin taskmaster in the role. And for others, they really use the marketing department to drive the business forward. So it can be a really vast difference in perspectives when you look at that. But inevitably, most of those owners who have a taskmaster or an admin in that role, that tends to be the type of clients that we have call us, that say, we've fallen way behind on marketing and on technology and on buyer behavior, and we don't know how to catch back up. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of strategy out of my marketer or creativity. And, my first question is always, well, did you hire that person, or is their job description written to be a strategist, or did you hire them to keep up with your ad management and your web changes? So that, I think, is a challenge. I think we ask a lot of our marketing folks without necessarily writing really clear job descriptions and expectations.
Yep.
And I think that sometimes the corporate structure is balanced in such a way that the marketing team doesn't get a whole lot of face time with the executive team to map out at least once a year what exactly the vision is and what the strategy should be. I think sometimes marketers have to really advocate for themselves to get that time at the table. So that would be probably what I would say is what I see the most in the industry. What I hear the most as challenges from marketers is just a constant do more with less. Especially this year, we got hit so hard with property taxes and property insurance, and I just can't even count how many people I heard from that marketing budgets got slashed. And, we're just being asked to accomplish so much with so little. And although demand is pretty strong right now and we're filling units, and there's going to be, we're going to really be able to catch up in 2025 because there's a delay happening in new development. But it gets very challenging. You and I both know, like, there are so many places to market. And I think as an industry, we're really starting to embrace the actual marketing funnel now.
Yep, I think so too.
And being able to position our properties from a point of early funnel engagement into nurturing leads and passing them off to leasing agents when they're hot, which is a really big stretch for our industry. It's a pivotal change. Like, we have always just listed on ILSs and maybe a little bit of pay-per-click and hand everything to the leasing team and expect them to nurture every single lead and follow up. And it's gotten a bit out of control. So I think that's what I'm hearing the most from marketing teams is there are so many new, or not even new, ways in which we need to be shifting our marketing, and shifting and breaking that model while we're living in it is really challenging. And asking the budgets to adjust to that, because for some of that, you're in 12-month contracts on things that you can't get out of, yet we're trying to bust that and rebuild it in the process. So I think that's challenging.
I think that's fair. That was actually one of the biggest surprises for me. I grew up in a digital marketing agency, and so I was very used to like real-time reporting, being able to start and stop campaigns, increase budget, whatever the case, like the flexibility, the real-time data. And so that was fascinating for me to step into a world where there were some channels that were very static. It didn't make sense to me. I was like, oh, what are these things that what do you mean I can't see the data right away? And so that was kind of, I think the other thing too is like the scalability. So not only are you trying to figure out a sales funnel and like passing off, like you said, like warming up leads, it's very much kind of a challenge in like a typical business of like marketing, getting leads to a point where then sales can take over. And then anyway, that's kind of how I think about it. I'm like, oh, there's always this kind of weird handoff between marketing and sales. But I think then you're having to scale that like at a like a normal business. That's not the right word, but like you're focused on one website, a couple products. But here, if you have 100 properties, then you have 100 different sales funnels because you have 100 different audiences, 100 different locations. I mean, maybe enough of your product is similar enough that you can consolidate those, and maybe you're really looking at only like 10 or 20 sales funnels because you can apply one to like multiple properties. But still, the scalability of it is like...
Yeah, right. And think about the diversity of a typical portfolio. You're operating properties from 75 units to 350 units.
Yep.
And that 75 to 100 unit building doesn't have a primary leasing agent like the 300 unit building might have. And so you're trying to train the sales funnel process and the handoff to leasing. You're trying to train that with a property manager or an assistant manager whose primary role isn't leasing. So you have all these training inadequacies as well, and then turnover.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very challenging.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting.
So that's, I think, and the biggest, I don't want to go back to Run Club over and over again, but
yeah, no.
The biggest benefit of Run Club is that we're able to have conversations about just how to get your arms around the position. These things, what do you use? We had an entire conversation a week ago Monday about how to organize the process and how to break down systems that aren't working anymore. And there was a 20-minute conversation on how everybody uses Asana. And it was fantastic.
First of all, that gives me joy that people are using Asana. Like, that makes me, a project management system. Like, yes, thank you. And I know it's so much more. And I know it's so much more.
Yeah, that,
yes.
Right.
Yeah, that, yes.
Has to be Asana experts.
Oh, yeah. Some of the things you guys were talking about, I was like, my brain is broken right now. Going back to something else you said, I am happy to hear that kind of owners and managers, that at least some of your clients are recognizing like, whoa, we've gotten to a place where we haven't done the right thing. We haven't been paying enough attention to marketing. We maybe have not thought out the job enough and given the person that is in that role the right tools or the right skills or the right expectations to be successful. So I am glad that there's a conversation about kind of that misalignment. I know I've even had a hard time kind of building up the team and figuring out job titles and like role, because we're kind of, when we add someone new to the team, it's a brand new position. And so I feel like we're going to change people's job titles like 10 times just because we'll keep, kind of scaling up. What else are you hearing marketers say? Like, what are they? So they're focused on doing less with more. They're focused on building funnels and kind of thinking outside ILSs and a little bit of pay-per-click. What else are you hearing people talk about right now from a marketing standpoint, like tactics or strategies? Or
I think there's a lot of talk about trying to figure out how to onboard and utilize AI. Not only across the properties and the marketing and leasing functions, but as, I'll call it, a helper within the department as well. So how do you set up and utilize AI to move faster without losing the brand or losing the focus on some guardrails, if you will? I think that gets challenging, but I'm really excited by some of the conversations that are coming out in the industry. I don't know if you've watched on Revise, but Christy Fickert, and I can't remember who else. Oh, I feel terrible.
Justin Jones. I know her and Justin Jones have an AI specific. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I feel terrible that I couldn't think of that. But yes, they have an AI session really breaking it down. And I've heard fantastic things about that. So again, like there are places to reach across that line and reach outside of your own organization and listen in on how others are doing it. So I think that's going to be helpful. And I think probably just marketers have a lot of challenges just educating non-marketers. So educating regional managers and third-party owners and executive teams on the why behind the what. And if we're going to break some of these models, or, we see the numbers, we pull the data, we see the information that tells us that we're driving the leads, but the leads aren't turning to tours. So what needs to happen to bridge that gap, to make sure that that happens? If it's onboarding a piece of technology or an AI helper or a bot helper, how do we sell that up to ownership or leadership and then drive it across the organization? This is another really big challenge that we touch on quite a bit is marketers really have all the responsibility for systems being successful across the organization, but very little authority. So we're driving change and behavior across on-site teams, across the entire portfolio, but we don't actually have the authority of saying, hey, I do really need you to, keep this information in the database or to leverage the CRM in this way so that we're getting the right information out of it. So we have to do that by influence, not authority.
Yep.
And I think that takes a lot of educating and a lot of collaboration and acceptance of feedback from on-site teams when we launch things or when we onboard new things, really driving that change alongside teams rather than from our, quiet desk in our corporate office.
Right.
I think that can be a challenge. I think we run in a million directions and, you don't have a whole lot of time to ask a lot of questions and take a lot of feedback, but we really do need the collaboration from those on-site teams in order for our processes to be successful.
No, I agree with you that that is really important and something I've heard that a lot, especially in Run Club, and in general, but I think, how do you bring people with you and not just say like, hey, here's what we're doing now. And I think the education piece is interesting too, because I feel like right now if you talk to 20 different multifamily marketers, you're probably going to hear 20 different philosophies on, hopefully you find some people you align with and you're like, yeah, we're the smartest people alive. No, I'm just kidding. I don't say that. But so that's what's fascinating. So when you're talking about then adding in owners and kind of operations and people who've been, started as leasing agents and then kind of grown up in the industry. Like, when you think about all of those opinions and experiences and thoughts and where they're getting information from and reps that they're talking about, I mean, like, keeping everyone on the same page is just, it's almost a full-time job, but it is so important because it is really important that everyone buys into all of the philosophies of a company. But from a marketing standpoint, I want people to believe that we're doing the right thing for them and that we're doing the legwork for them, that we're talking to vendors, that we're vetting new products, that we're putting together marketing plans that are going to do, to the best of our ability, are going to do the right thing for them and going to make everyone successful. But
I think you said it well too, that one of the most important pieces is really aligning the vision of the company and making sure that you have some guardrails in place around the strategies that you choose to deploy. Because, we've had clients that have, yes, perhaps fallen behind in marketing over the years and know that they need to catch up, but that's not to say that their properties aren't performing. They're
Right.
performing off of good old people service and, answering the phone and giving in-person tours. So this onslaught of new technology that can really essentially take leasing all the way to the finish line, it isn't necessarily the right process for every company. Some really still want to be very humanized and they don't want to hand off the experience to AI or a bot. They want to figure out how to navigate the prospect experience in a current and modern way, but still have a lot of humanity behind it. So it is really important to identify what's the most important thing for your company. And for some, it's let's use all the tech and build it out so that prospects can have an entirely self-serve experience all the way up to the tour and come for a self-guided tour. And then our leasing agent will get involved to pull the application across the finish line. That works for some, but for others, it's how can we still be modern, but be human? So I think that's important to identify exactly what strategy your company is wishing to stay within and then build it from there, because that way you are aligning with your teams to, I still call it drink the Kool-Aid.
Absolutely.
Myself. At some point, someone's going to be like, what's Kool-Aid?
No, it still exists. They still sell. The Kool-Aid man is alive and well. Like, people, no.
I'm going to go fact check that. No, but I think it is really important. And that's part of being able to bring people along with you by influence rather than authority.
Yep.
When you launch new systems, is to align with the company vision, mission, values, and be able to say, this is how, the experience we want our prospects and residents to have and the experience we want our employees to have. And thus we see that there's a breakdown in it. And so we are filling that gap. And this is the why behind the what that we're launching.
I love that. I love that idea of just, what is the vision? What is the brand? I feel like I've heard people, I told you this the other day, I feel like I've heard a lot of talk around brand lately, and a lot of emphasis on going back to what experience are we trying to give our residents? How does that fall into our brand promise as a management company? And then how do we also align that with, if we're, managing for third parties, like, how does our vision and brand align with what they're trying to accomplish as well? And so,
I feel like we shifted drastically from 15, 20 years ago that there was just a process by which you lease apartments. And most of the time people had no idea who owned the property, who managed the property. They just came in, they leased an apartment, and on they went with paying the rent. But things shifted drastically when our brand became very dependent on the customer voice.
Yes.
So you bring in reputation management and you bring in the prospect experience and all the tools and resources that they interact with, and then allow them to go out and post how they feel about it, whether on social media or on reputation sites. Like, that is a huge piece of the prospect journey now, is seeking that crowdsource of how was your experience and what should I expect? So we do need to really dial into what our brand stands for and what the experience should feel like so that it is consistent across the board.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. I think I will date my family for a moment, but I was thinking about like old time social media. I think it was the phone. People were on the phone all the time sharing their experiences, and it was more intimate. But now, it's kind of like you said, blasted for the world to see. Mouth. Yes, word of mouth all day, every day. I remember my mother-in-law
didn't necessarily get to hear what was said about us. We just hoped enough people came to our door because of it.
Yeah, we just hope that the telephone will sorely, telephone cord when people were saying good things. My mother-in-law told me years ago that her, she got, she was married, and then they lived in this gigantic apartment community in Cincinnati, and it was her and like 8 other couple friends. And so, they all talk. Yeah, first of all, it sounded like it was so fun. But second, they all like talk to each other and like, oh, we're all going to go live here because it's the type of lifestyle that we want to have as young married people. So they were doing basically 40 years ago what we're trying to emulate now. But you're right, it's in a quicker environment. So Janet, this has been awesome. Is there anything else that you want our listeners to know, or anything else that's on your mind right now?
Oh, I think just if what you've heard today really speaks to you and you think you're the ideal member for Cadence Run Club, we just really encourage you to come out and check it out. Our ideal member is hungry, humble, and smart, right out of Patrick Lencioni's leadership books. We want people who are eager to share what they know and their expertise. Even if you're new, you've got some expertise to share. And we want people who are smart, they're, savvy, they're scrappy, and humble enough to come without ego.
Yep, absolutely.
So we encourage people to come and check it out. In fact, we give 30 days away for free. Come and get all the information and experience you can and lean into some of the sessions and see if the community feels right for you.
I definitely took advantage of the free 30 days. I message people now on the platform, like friends. It feels like social media. I'm friends with people now. And you can listen to the old sessions too. So like you said, you can kind of get a sense of what you're in for.
The education sessions are so fantastic. I lead them and I still go back and listen to them because I feel like leading them, I don't get as much opportunity to hear the whole conversation, and going back, I get so much out of every one of them. I mean, you know how it goes. We have 79 members right now, and I hope by the end of the year we have, neared 100. That would be really fun. But on any given Monday, 15 to 20 are live in the session, which makes it perfectly comfortable to come and be able to contribute.
Yep.
But when we go back and look at the stats behind some of those recorded sessions, we see a lot of you that missed the sessions going back and listening to them. And it's great. And that makes it really valuable. You can come when you can come, and you can still take advantage of the material when you have time to go back and listen.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Line chat is hilarious on some days. So,
oh my gosh, all the things. I mean, the questions too, like I've been able to ask about KPIs, people like it's all over the board. People ask about technical URL repointing questions. I mean, it's just really like like you said, like anywhere you're trying to learn, anything you're trying to learn, you can ask, and at least a couple people will jump in. And so, Janet, I'm so grateful that I met you at AIM. We got to hang out at Apartmentalize too. That was fun. I'm so grateful that you joined the apartment department to tell all of our listeners how important a network is and kind of what you're hearing both from owner-operators and then marketers in general. I think, like we talked about, that's part of the reason that we started the apartment department, is to really bring marketers together and just give them, give people a source of information. So
I want to add, you guys have had some great guests, and you're bringing some really good topics to the air. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Chris, we missed you. Carlos, our producer, thank you so much for making us sound amazing. And until next time, this has been the Apartment Department. Thank you.